Good afternoon, Julia here at Flowerland. Beautiful afternoon with all these roses coming into flower. Because it's rose season here at the garden centre and we've got so many roses coming into flower, we'd like to cover the subject of roses this month. Now, roses is a huge topic, a huge subject, and there's a lot to talk about. So we're not going to try and cover everything on this video today. Today we're just going to talk about feeding roses because we think that is really vitally important. On another video we'll go through pests and diseases and all the sort of bugs that might be attacking your roses, other reasons why your roses might not be performing that well, and we'll also cover some interesting topics like designing using other plants with roses, because roses are brilliant in a mixed border. Just looking here, you can see that they're all putting on lovely new growth, like this rose here. Lots of buds about to break into flower, so it's really an exciting time of the year. Feeding is so vitally important for roses. The reason for that is, with feeding, you actually want the rose to put on a lot of new fresh growth, like this rose here where you got all that beautiful new growth. And this new growth from the base here is what we call a basal break. So with your roses you want to encourage a lot of this growth throughout the season. Roses are actually very greedy plants and they require a lot of food. In fact, any plant that produces a lot of flowers, such as this rose here, need a lot of food. They use up a lot of energy to produce those flowers. So all this extra feeding will actually get your roses to perform a lot better. And of course as well, any plant that's fed really well is going to be more susceptible to resisting disease. Apart from actually using food, it's very important to water your roses. And in fact, a lot of rose growers say think water as food. Don't forget, a lot of the feeds are granular based, so unless there's moisture, your rose won't be able to actually take that food. And don't forget as well that when roses are in flower, the flowers themselves actually lose a lot of water. And it's very important when you do water to give a good deep watering to get right down to the base of the roots of the plant to get that water in. I can't emphasize enough how important water is. We'll just run through first some of the products that we have here at the garden centre for feeding roses. Lots of people use this product here, Top Rose. It's a granular feed which you just sprinkle on the top of the soil, and you feed this twice a year. The first time to feed your roses using something like Top Rose would be back in February when they start to break dormancy, and then you would give a second feed to encourage the rose to repeat flower. That only applies to the roses that repeat flower. Some of the old roses don't actually flower a second time. Now, a lot of people wait until their roses have flowered, say once, like this one here, before they give the second feed. But my recommendation would be to actually give the feed a little bit sooner than that. And in fact, the time to give the second feed would be when the buds are just swelling and the first buds on the rose are breaking to that point. Then if you feed for the second time at this stage, you'll encourage more remontancy within the rose, and in effect you'll get the rose to flower maybe 3 or 4 times in the season rather than just flowering twice. Now, if you're an organic gardener, instead of using Top Rose, you'll want to use fish blood and bone meal to feed your roses, because this is an organic food. Some people use this product. It's a granular feed called Q4, and this is a really good feed because it's very balanced. In addition to the macronutrients, it's got molybdenum, boron, magnesium, manganese, and a lot of other minerals. It's a very, very good food. sometimes you might find that your rose leaves, rather than being lovely and green like this one, might be a little bit yellow. So what we'd recommend is using Epsom salts, which is a food high in magnesium, and by using some Epsom salts it should ensure that the nitrogen you're giving it will be uptaken by the plant. Now, some of the more professional rose growers tend to actually start the season with a balanced food which is high in nitrogen like Q4, but very quickly they revert to adding some sulfate of potash, say around February time. Well, the reason for that is when you use these foods, it actually encourages a lot of fresh, soft growth, which is a great thing because you want it to break dormancy and produce a lot of growth. However, when your plant produces a lot of soft growth, it's more susceptible to infestation and disease. So some of those top growers use potash because what it does, it firms up the new growth, and once the new growth, which was soft, is firmed up, it actually helps to prevent all those diseases. You can also give your rose some foliar feeding. You can either use this Maxi Crop organic and food, which is an organic stimulant, and in addition you can use a natural fertilizer. The benefit with the Maxi Crop, apart from it being organic, and we all love organic products these days because it's so beneficial for the insects, us, and the environment, but the other benefit is that you can actually use this as a foliar feed. So if you mix it, dilute with water and spray it on the foliage of the plant, it gets in and it acts a lot quicker than some of these other foods. In my own garden, I am an organic gardener and I follow organic principles. If you'd like to learn a little bit more, I would suggest that I find this book really useful. It's the Rodale Organic Gardening book, written by Barbara Wilde. It's just growing roses organically. And in this book, apart from all the other tips and advice, Barbara mentions using a plant tea to benefit your roses. And in my own garden, I actually have my own little recipe which I'd like to share with you, which I use as plant tea. Now, one of the main ingredients in my plant tea is alfalfa meal. You can get that in pet shops or buy it online. It's used as an animal feed. It's been known by the Persians for over 6,000 years, and the reason why it's actually good as a base in a food, it's got vitamins A, B and E, magnesium, iron, and it's got 16 amino acids, but most importantly for me, it's got a chemical called tricontinol, and tricontinol is a very effective growth stimulant, and I find that when I use this particular tea with the alfalfa, that I get much bushier plants and lots of this new growth and all these basal breaks on my plant. Just another point I'd add on basal breaks: it's really very important with your rose that you don't overcrowd the base of the plant with geraniums and other plants, particularly when you've just planted them, because in addition to any feed that might encourage basal breaks, the base of the plant needs light, and that also helps to encourage basal breaks on your plant. So don't overcrowd your roses. I'll just go through with you what the list of ingredients are on the tea that I use. I use 1 cup of alfalfa meal, 1 cup of gypsum, 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt. As we said earlier, the Epsom salt provides the magnesium. Half a cup of bone meal. Bone meal is really good for encouraging root growth. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. 2 tablespoons of blackstrap molasses. The molasses will actually feed the microbes, and microbes are very, very important in your garden. And if you use this, I can guarantee your garden will be teeming with microbes. And in addition, you mix in 2 gallons of warm water. The warm water helps to actually dilute all the ingredients. And that's ready to use straight away. You can use it, I would say, 3 times per year on your roses, and just use it as a soil drench right on the base of your plants and your roses. You could actually keep the mix as well for 2 weeks and store it and use it gradually over a period of time. But I actually find that it gives remarkable results when I use it. Isn't it? Oh, wow.
If you liked this video, please like, follow us and share. Coming up next week, roses, pests, problems and remedies.